Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel, Sola Stories. My son needed a new house, and I offered to pitch in $100,000. But after I asked just one simple question and saw my daughter-in-law's reaction, I decided not to give them a single cent. My name is Eleanor, I'm 65, and I've just retired from my teaching position. My husband passed away many years ago, so I raised our son, Ethan, all on my own. It was tough, but I did it. I've always been a traditional person at heart, believing that my son was my entire world. But after you've seen enough of life, you start to see things more clearly, and you realize that even love has to have its limits. My son, Ethan, is 30 now. He's just a regular guy with an office job, a bit of a soft personality, like a kid who never quite grew up. He's especially a pushover when it comes to his wife, Clara. If Clara tells him to go east, he wouldn't dare go west. My daughter-in-law, Clara, is 28. She's sharp and attractive, with a mind that's always working. Maybe a little too sharp. She has a calculating air about her. With me, she always puts on a good show, calling me Mom in that sweet voice of hers, but I could always see something hidden deep in her eyes. I wasn't blind to it. I offered them $100,000. That was nearly half a lifetime of my savings, the money I had carefully put away for my own retirement. But when Ethan said they wanted to move to a house in a better school district, for the sake of a grandchild I didn't even have yet, my heart softened. As a mother, you just want to give them the world. So, I thought, why not? It was just a casual question that came up in conversation. I said, "That's wonderful. So when you two move into your big new house, where will I live?" That one sentence was like a stone tossed into a calm lake. My daughter-in-law, Clara, who had been staring intently at her phone as if nothing else in the world mattered, suddenly froze. Her fingers stopped moving. She flicked her eyes up at me in a flash. It was a look as quick as a shooting star, but it carried a raw contempt and a trace of annoyance I had never seen on her face before. The corner of her mouth pulled down in the slightest sneer, and though she immediately masked it with a forced smile, it felt like a cold needle jabbing straight into my heart. And my son, Ethan? He looked like a child who'd just been caught doing something wrong. His eyes darted around nervously, looking at the ceiling, at the corner of the table, anywhere but at me. He mumbled, "Mom, well, we can talk about that later." His voice trailed off, filled with guilt. My heart sank. A chill crept up my spine. I didn't press the issue. Some questions, if you push them too far, just end up tearing everything apart, and no one comes out looking good. I forced a smile, picked up the cup of tea I had barely touched, and blew on it gently. "Oh, listen to me," I said. "My memory is getting so bad. I don't think I have enough in that account anyway. I have a CD that hasn't matured yet. I'll need to go to the bank and sort it out." I stood up, casually grabbing my coat from the back of the chair. As I stepped outside, a cold wind hit me, and I shivered. But my mind was crystal clear. There was a bank right at the entrance of my neighborhood. Instead of going home, I turned and walked straight toward its brightly lit sign. I had to report the card as lost. Immediately, that bank card held $100,000. Some things, even when you see the truth, you don't say out loud. But you have to be smart. And some things, you just have to do. I wanted to see, without my $100,000, how they planned to continue this little performance they were putting on, all for the sake of their future child. That weekend, the sunlight streamed lazily through my windows, but it couldn't chase away the gloom in my heart. The doorbell suddenly rang, a series of quick, excited presses. I opened the door to find Ethan and Clara, their arms loaded with shopping bags, their faces plastered with smiles. "Mom," Clara's voice was an octave higher than usual, sickeningly sweet. "We came to see you." She turned to the side to show me a fancy paper bag in her hand. "We know you get cold easily, so I bought you a cashmere sweater. It's a brand name. Try it on and see if you like it." Ethan chimed in. "Yeah, Mom, it's getting cold. You should dress warmer." I thought to myself, what is going on here? My daughter-in-law, who usually had to be begged to visit, was now showing up at my door with designer gifts. Something wasn't right. It felt like a trap. I took the cashmere sweater. The fabric was soft, yes, but it lacked the rich, dense feel of real cashmere. The tag was even sewn on a little crookedly. I didn't say anything, just smiled and invited them in. The moment she stepped inside, Clara was a whirlwind of activity. One minute she was pouring me a glass of water, the next she was complimenting how great I looked. Her words were coated in honey, calling me Mom every other second. Her attentiveness made me uncomfortable, as if I wasn't her mother-in-law but some distinguished guest she had to wait on hand and foot. I had already prepared lunch, all of Ethan's favorite dishes. The atmosphere at the dinner table was a bit heavy with unspoken tension. Ethan was the first to speak. He put down his chopsticks, cleared his throat, and began cautiously. Mom, you know, the apartment we're in now is a little small, and it's a long commute to work. He paused, as if trying to find the right words, or maybe waiting for a cue. Clara seamlessly picked up where he left off. Yes, Mom, and the main thing is, Ethan's right. A little cramped is okay for now, but we have to think about the kids' schooling in the future. We've been looking at a few places, and there's this one house in a great school district. Her eyes lit up as she launched into a detailed description of the house's merits. The location is perfect, right next to the city's top-rated elementary school, just a 5-minute walk. Think of how convenient that will be for dropping off and picking up the kids. Plus, it's a new development, so the neighborhood is beautiful, lots of trees and parks. And most importantly, the potential for appreciation is huge. Buying it is an investment in itself. After all that buildup, she finally got to the point. Clara's tone shifted, tinged with a perfectly measured amount of difficulty as she looked at me. It's just, we're still a little short on the down payment. She paused, her eyes fixed on me, her voice becoming softer, almost like a little girl asking for a favor. Mom, I was wondering if you could support us a little. It was as clear as day. They were after my nest egg. After my husband passed, I had scrimped and saved every penny. Between my salary, some government benefits, and the small pension he left behind, I had managed to put together about $125,000. This money was meant for my retirement, for any potential medical emergencies, so I wouldn't be a burden on my son and could live my final years with dignity. I never thought they'd come after it so soon. I took a sip of tea, hiding my emotions, and looked at Ethan calmly. How much are you short? I asked. Ethan instinctively glanced at Clara. After she gave a nearly imperceptible nod, he held up 4 fingers, his voice weak. Not that much. Just 100,000. Mom, don't worry, he added quickly. We'll definitely pay you back. As soon as we're more comfortable financially, you'll be the first person we pay back. Yes. Clara jumped in, as if afraid I'd change my mind, her tone dripping with sincerity. Mom, think of it as a loan from you to us. We can even write up a formal IOU. It's all for our future child. You know how important education is. We can't let our future grandchild fall behind before they even start. Once we get through this initial period, or once the house appreciates and we sell it, we'll pay you back immediately with interest. $100,000. It was the bulk of my retirement savings. They said it was a loan, but watching their coordinated performance, especially the way Ethan kept looking to his wife for approval, I knew this was like throwing good money after bad. It was gone for good. But those words, for our future grandchild, were like a magic spell. What grandmother could resist? I could almost see a chubby-cheeked little boy happily walking to school with his backpack on. He fell silent. $100,000 wasn't pocket change I could just hand over. It was the product of years of sacrifice, my security for old age, my defense against the uncertainties of the future. I looked at Ethan. He was my only son. I had never let him suffer. After his father died, I was both mother and father to him. I poured all my energy into him, hoping he would succeed, hoping he would have a good life. Now he was starting his own family, planning for the next generation. As his mother, how could I not support him? For him, for that grandson, who didn't even exist yet, perhaps it was worth it. A mother's love can be so blind, so filled with a tragic sense of self-sacrifice. The scales in my heart finally tipped in my son's favor. I slowly nodded my head, my voice tinged with a weariness I couldn't hide. All right, for the child, Mom will help. The moment I nodded, Ethan's and Clara's eyes lit up. The joy on their faces was impossible to miss. They even exchanged a quick, triumphant glance. But as I watched their excitement, another worry began to creep into my mind. I paused, then continued. But you're moving into such a big house, in a nice area. It's going to be far from my old, small place. This building is old, there's no elevator, and I'm not getting any younger. My legs are getting weaker. Living all by myself, what if I get a headache or a fever in the middle of the night? There won't be anyone around to even get me a glass of water. My tone was neutral, as if I were simply stating facts, planning for the future. I paused again, my gaze sweeping over their faces. Then, very casually, as if it were just an afterthought, I asked, "That new place you're looking at, it's over 1,500 square feet, right? It should be pretty spacious. Is there, maybe, a small room for me? Where am I supposed to live? Raising children to provide for you in old age? Ha! Nowadays, people say you have to guard your nest egg from your own kids. It wasn't that I was truly afraid of being alone in my old age. I'd lived long enough to be more realistic than that. I just wanted to see if, in the beautiful future they were painting for themselves, there was any space left for their old mother, even just a tiny corner. The moment the words left my mouth, the air in the room seemed to freeze. Clara, who had been pretending to be engrossed in her phone, trying to appear detached from the serious talk, shot her head up with a reflex-like speed. Her movement was startlingly fast, and her eyes were like two bolts of cold lightning that flashed across my face. In that look, there was none of the respect or affection she usually faked. There was only something piercingly raw, a mixture of sheer disbelief, incredulity, and undisguised contempt and indifference. Although the look lasted less than a second before she quickly looked down again, trying to force a stiff smile to cover her tracks, I saw it all. I saw it clearly and truly. That expression, that look in her eyes, was like a silent scream. What? This old woman actually thinks she's going to move in with us? She should be grateful we're taking her money. How dare she ask for more? In that instant, I felt like a product on a shelf, priced and ready to be bought. They were already doing me a great honor by deigning to take my money, and here I was, audaciously asking about post-purchase services and retirement care. Clara's fleeting glance was colder than a Siberian winter, instantly extinguishing the small flame of warmth that a mother's love had kindled in my heart. Ethan was even less composed than Clara, or perhaps just worse at hiding his feelings. He was completely flustered, his face turning beet red. His eyes darted around, from me to a quick, fearful glance at Clara's tense profile. His lips moved a few times before he finally managed to stammer out a few words. "Mom, the new house, the layout, we'll figure it out later. Of course there will be a place for you." His voice grew quieter and quieter until the last few words were almost lost in his throat. He couldn't meet my gaze, and he definitely didn't dare to look at Clara, whose expression had visibly darkened. My heart felt as if it had been thrown into a frozen cavern, chilling me inch by inch until all that was left was a numb coldness. I understood. I finally understood completely. This $100,000 wasn't for some unborn grandchild. That was just a noble-sounding excuse, a moral lever to pry open my wallet. What they really wanted was the lump sum of cash that would allow them to effortlessly climb the social ladder. They were using the next generation as a banner to justify bleeding their own mother dry. As for me, the mother who had worked so hard to raise him, in their spacious, bright, multi-$100,000 new home, there probably wasn't even a spare closet for me. You want my money? Fine. You want me to live with you? Not a chance. Once I understood that, all my previous hesitation, my softness, my worries, they all vanished. I didn't say another word. I even managed a smile that was uglier than tears. "Oh, I see. You're right. We'll talk about it later." I picked up my teacup, pretending to drink, to hide the disappointment and chill swirling in my eyes. Well, there might really be an issue with the money in that card. I'll have to go to the bank tomorrow to check on it properly. I think I have a CD that's about to mature, too. I need to get the details. I stood up and started to show them out, my voice carrying a hint of distance they couldn't miss. All right, you two are busy. You should head home. I'm a little tired and want to rest early. I didn't let them stay any longer, practically pushing them out the door. The door clicked shut with a thud, sealing off the fake smiles and polite goodbyes. I leaned against the cold wood, feeling as if all my strength had been drained away. I slowly slid down to the floor. The house was silent, so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat, slow and heavy. I took a deep breath, my chest tight and aching. I pulled out my phone, my fingertips white from gripping it so tightly, found the bank's customer service number, and dialed without a moment's hesitation. Hello, yes, I need to report a bank card is lost. My voice was so calm it surprised even me. There is no grief greater than a dead heart. Rely on them for my old age? Forget it. I'd be better off relying on the balance in my bank account. Lock your doors against fire, thieves, and your own children. I finally understood what that meant. The next day, just as the sky was beginning to lighten, I got out of bed. I looked in the mirror and saw my weary face and the dark circles under my eyes. I sighed. Eleanor, Eleanor, it's time to wake up. I washed up carefully, changed into a sharp outfit, grabbed my purse, and went straight to the bank. The young teller recognized me and greeted me with a smile. Mrs. Johnson, what can we do for you today? Report a card lost and get a replacement, I said, keeping it short. At the counter, I completed the official paperwork to report the card as lost. Then, I had the majority of my savings, well over the $100,000, transferred to a different, older card that I kept hidden at the bottom of a dresser drawer. I set a new, long, and complicated password for this old card, a combination of numbers and letters that only I knew. On the original card, I left just a few $1,000s for emergencies. After doing all this, a wave of relief washed over me, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Just as I stepped out of the bank, my phone rang. The name Ethan flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. Hello? Mom? Ethan's voice sounded calm, but underneath, I could hear a simmering impatience. Did you go to the bank? Is the money sorted out? The real estate agent is getting anxious. He said a lot of people are interested in that house, and we need to put down a deposit quickly before someone else snatches it up. Listen to that tone. All the respect and patience from yesterday was gone. It was as if that $100,000 was already his, and I was just the delivery person responsible for the transfer. I scoffed internally but put on a surprised and annoyed voice. Oh, Ethan, my memory is so bad. I was so happy for you yesterday. I came home and must have put the card down somewhere. I can't find it anywhere this morning. I'm starting to panic. I was so worried someone might have found it, I continued, letting my voice fill with just the right amount of anxiety and helplessness that I called to report it lost first thing. I just came from the bank where I filed the official paperwork. It's going to take a few days to get the new card. What a mess. But don't you worry too much. You know what they say. Good things come to those who wait. A house that perfect is surely waiting for us. What? A sharp female voice suddenly cut in from the other end. Clara had obviously snatched the phone. Her voice was stripped of all pretense, filled only with raw disbelief and suspicion. Mom, what did you say? The card is lost? How could you be so careless? There's $100,000 in there. You're not just saying that because you don't want to give it to us, are you? If you don't want to help, just say so. Why make up an excuse like this? Her voice was high and piercing, like an awl, ruthlessly puncturing my flimsy lie and tearing off her own mask of the gentle, virtuous daughter-in-law. I could even hear Ethan in the background, trying to calm her down. Clara, keep your voice down. Talk to my mom nicely. Then came Clara's sharp retort. Talk nicely? Didn't you hear her? The card is lost. What a coincidence. It wasn't lost yesterday. It wasn't lost last week, but it's lost the very day we need the money. Ah, so the mask was off. As expected, when real money is on the line, the fox's tail always shows. I used to hear people say, a man forgets his mother once he has a wife, and I always thought that was just something out of old plays. I believed the son I had worked so hard to raise would never be like that. Now I see how naive I was. I laughed coldly to myself, but I had to keep up the act. I cupped the phone's microphone, sniffled a little to make my voice sound hurt and helpless. Clara, honey, what are you saying? Why wouldn't Mom want to help you? This is for my own grandchild. I want you to be happy more than anyone. I really can't find it. I'm sick with worry myself. What a mess this has turned into. I sighed, my tone shifting to one of compromise. Why don't you see if you can find another way for now? Or just wait a little longer? As soon as my new card arrives, I'll transfer the money to you. It'll only be a few days. I was playing weak, testing them, and buying time. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end, then Clara's cold voice came through. Wait? Do you think the house will wait? Fine, Mom, I understand. With a sharp click, she hung up the phone. Listening to the dial tone, I stood in the cold wind outside the bank, my heart a swirl of emotions. I had raised a son, only for it to end like this. It was heartbreaking, of course, but more than that, I felt a clear-headedness that comes from being played for a fool. I didn't go home right away. I sat on a park bench for a long time. The winter sun shone through the bare branches, but it brought me no warmth. I started to seriously think about my future, a future that did not involve my son or daughter-in-law. This old apartment, it was a bit dated, no elevator, a pain to climb the stairs, but the location was fantastic. The farmer's market, the grocery store, the bus stop were all right outside. It was convenient to get anywhere. Living alone, I kept it neat and tidy, and it was comfortable enough. Or, I could rent it out. I could probably get a few thousand a month. With that income, plus my pension and savings, I could afford a nice retirement community with good services and live out my days in peace. That wasn't a bad option either. On a whim, I even opened a travel app on my phone and started browsing destinations I had dreamed of seeing when I was young, but never had the chance. The stunning landscapes of the Pacific Northwest, the majestic beauty of the national parks. Why should my final years be held hostage by their selfishness and scheming? Why should I sacrifice my own stable present for their so-called future? It was my money, my hard-earned retirement fund. Why shouldn't I be the one to decide how to use it? Heartbreak is one thing, but life goes on, and I needed to live it well for myself. Instead of hoping for hollow words of comfort from a son and daughter-in-law I couldn't rely on, I was better off holding my retirement fund and my future firmly in my own hands. The world is so big. Why couldn't I, while my legs were still strong, go and see it? For the next few days, my phone didn't stop ringing. Ethan and Clara seemed to have coordinated their efforts, taking turns bombarding me with a mix of emotional blackmail and logical-sounding arguments. First, Ethan called, his voice low and full of guilt. Mom, I know you're angry. Clara. She just speaks her mind. Don't take it to heart. We really want that house, mainly for the kids. He started playing the sympathy card, reminiscing about all the hardships I faced raising him alone. Mom, think about it. Since I was a kid, when have you ever let me suffer? Dad was gone, and you held this family together all by yourself. You put me through school, sent me to college. Now that I'm finally trying to buy a home, are you really going to watch us fail over a little bit of money? His words were dripping with moral obligation, trying to use my past sacrifices to soften me up. Listening to him, my heart did stir. He was my own flesh and blood after all. But I forced myself to be strong. I simply replied in a tired voice, Ethan, Mom isn't refusing to help. The card is really lost, and I'm waiting for a replacement. Stop rushing me. We'll talk when the new card arrives. As soon as Ethan hung up, a message from Clara popped up on my phone. She didn't mention the money directly anymore. Instead, she started making passive-aggressive posts in our small family group chat, a group with just the three of us and my sister, Carol, who is Ethan's aunt. The posts were seemingly random, but clearly pointed at me. Sigh, housing prices are so high these days. It's so much pressure on young people. It would be so nice if the older generation could help out a bit. I'm so jealous of my neighbor, Lisa. Her mother-in-law paid their down payment without a second thought and even offered to take care of the grandkids. That's a real model mother-in-law. Some people say they love their kids, but when it's time to actually contribute, they come up with all sorts of excuses. I guess the love just isn't that deep. She even shared articles about mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationships, implying that by not giving them the money, I didn't care about my future grandchild, that my thinking was old-fashioned. And she even subtly accused me of favoring a son I didn't have over my only son, which made no sense at all. My sister Carol sent me a private message asking cautiously, "Hey, is everything okay with you and Ethan's family?" Looking at those snide remarks in the group chat, I felt disgusted. Trying to play mind games with me? When I was grading student essays, I had seen every trick in the book. She wasn't going to guilt-trip me with a few messages. I gave my sister a brief explanation, just telling her the card was lost and they needed to wait. As for Clara's passive-aggressive posts, I ignored them completely. I didn't reply, I didn't argue. I let her do her little dance while I stood my ground, sticking to my story. The card was being replaced, the bank was slow, my memory was failing me. I'd forgotten the new PIN. I set up anything to stall. My lack of reaction clearly infuriated Clara. Her patience ran out. One Friday evening, she called me directly. Her tone was no longer disguised, it was cold and hard. "Mom, I'm not going to beat around the bush anymore. Just give me a straight answer. This $100,000, are you giving it to us or not? If you're not, we'll figure something else out. That house won't wait forever. I don't want it to end with you not giving us the money, us not getting the house, and you still looking like the good guy while we look incompetent." That was basically a declaration of war. I took a deep breath, walked to the window, and looked out at the city lights. The night was thick and dark, like ink that wouldn't dissolve. Fine. The time had come. It was time to end this charade. I spoke into the phone, my voice incredibly calm, but each word was laced with ice. "Clara, it's not that Mom won't give it to you. It's just..." That day at the dinner table, when I asked where I would live, that look in your eyes, your reaction, it made me feel very uneasy. And Ethan, he just mumbled and looked away. All my life, I've had nothing to rely on but my son. This $100,000 is almost everything I have. It's my retirement fund. If I give this money to you, what happens to me when I'm old? What happens if I get sick? My voice was quiet but carried an undeniable force that cut straight to the heart of the matter. If you two never had any intention of saving a spot for me, if you never planned on caring for your own mother, then why should I give you everything I have, my entire retirement fund, to help you achieve your so-called happy life, only to end up old, alone, and miserable myself? The other end of the line went dead silent. I could hear Clara's ragged breathing, like a trapped animal. After a long moment, just when I thought she would hang up, her voice came through, shrill and hysterical. "Fine, Eleanor. Now I see what you've been planning all along. You were just waiting for this. After all this, you just don't want to give us the money. You're selfish. Fine. Ethan, did you hear that? This is how your mother treats us." Her voice suddenly turned towards someone beside her, full of rage and tears. "We don't want the money. Who needs it? We'll figure it out ourselves. And from now on, don't you ever expect us to take care of you when you're old." Click. The phone was slammed down, the loud noise echoing in my ear. So the masks were finally off. As long as their core interests weren't threatened, they could play the part of a loving family. The moment they realized the money might not be coming, they immediately turned hostile, not even bothering to maintain a shred of respect. Good. It was better to see their true colors now than to be thrown into a forgotten corner of a nursing home when I'm old and sick. I turned off my phone and sat down on the sofa. The night outside had grown darker, but my heart felt strangely calm. After she hung up, the house returned to silence. I leaned back on the sofa, closed my eyes, and let out a long, deep sigh of relief. What was bound to happen had happened. Getting it all out in the open was better than continuing to act in a play that was exhausting us all. I just never expected their retaliation, or rather, Clara's retaliation, to be so swift, so vicious, and so utterly ruthless. The next morning, while I was watering the plants on my balcony, my sister, Carol, called. Her voice was hesitant and troubled. "Eleanor, did you and Ethan have a big fight?" My heart sank. I had a bad feeling. "What is it? Did Clara say something again?" "Well, My sister sighed. She's posting in the extended family group chat, the big one with all the aunts and uncles and cousins. She's telling everyone her side of the story, making herself sound so pitiful. Her side? What is she saying? I frowned. She's saying that your thinking is too old-fashioned, that you're unwilling to support your son in buying a better home. She said that when you went to see the house, you made it clear you didn't want to live with them, that you looked down on her as a daughter-in-law. She also said you think she's not good enough for Ethan, and you're deliberately holding the money back to stop them from buying that house. My sister's voice got quieter. She says all she wants is to be a good daughter-in-law and work hard for her family, but you're misunderstanding and deliberately making things difficult for her. Now, all the relatives in the group who don't know the full story are talking. Some are saying you're too stubborn. Others say you don't care about your son, and some are even saying you probably just don't like her. I was so stunned I almost laughed out loud. What a performance. What a master of twisting the truth and stirring up trouble. She had managed to distort the whole situation, turning my reasonable concerns into disdain, my attempt to clarify my future living arrangements into a personal attack, and my legitimate act of protecting my retirement savings into being old-fashioned and disliking her. She painted herself as the perfect victim, a devoted daughter-in-law rejected by a cruel mother-in-law, a hard-working wife unsupported by her elders. With her acting skills and storytelling ability, she could have been a Hollywood screenwriter. So, when you can't win the argument, you run and tattle, using public opinion as a weapon. What a tactic. And the relatives. I barely hear from most of these so-called relatives, but now they were all popping up to act as champions of justice. They were probably just enjoying the drama, or had been completely fooled by Clara's tearful performance. So many family members are only there for the good times and disappear when things get tough. Listening to my sister relay all their concerns and advice, I just felt tired. Explaining things to people who thrive on gossip and jump to conclusions is pointless. You offer one explanation, and they'll imagine 10 different stories. I just calmly told my sister over the phone, "Carol, every family has its own problems. The money is mine, I earned it, and I know how I'm going to use it. As for what other people say, just let it go in one ear and out the other." After hanging up, I muted the notifications for that toxic family group chat. Out of sight, out of mind. But I knew Clara wouldn't stop there. Public pressure was just the first step. Sure enough, she started pushing, or rather, forcing Ethan to come and confront me. That night, just as I was getting ready for bed, I heard a loud banging on my front door. It was Ethan's voice, slurred with alcohol, shouting, "Mom, open the door, let me in. Mom, what do you want from me? Are you really going to disown your own son over $100,000? You're not opening the door? Fine. I'll just stand here and shout, let all the neighbors hear. Let them all see how you treat your own son." His voice was loud, piercing the quiet night. I could hear my next-door neighbor opening their door to peek out, and I could faintly hear people talking downstairs. I stood behind my door, my body cold, my heart squeezed tight by an invisible hand, the pain making it hard to breathe. Disappointment washed over me like a tidal wave. This was the son I had worked so hard to raise, now being used as a weapon by his wife, showing up drunk at my doorstep, trying to force my hand in the most shameful way possible. Through the thick security door, my voice trembled with heartbreak, but my tone was firm. "Ethan, you need to sober up. Right now, what's more important, the money or your mother? You think about that. If you still consider me your mom, you will go home and stop embarrassing yourself and me." A drunken tantrum. Was this his last resort, using our relationship as a weapon? Too bad. A heart that's been broken can't be warmed up with a few cheap, drunken tears. The curious, probing, and even disdainful stares from my neighbors felt like they were piercing through the door, making my face burn with shame. Ethan cried and yelled outside for a while longer. Maybe the alcohol finally hit him, or maybe he realized how humiliating it was. His voice gradually faded, and I heard his stumbling footsteps as he walked away. The world was finally quiet again. I leaned against the door, tears streaming silently down my face. Not for him, but for myself, for this failed relationship, for this absurd life I was living. But I knew it wasn't over. Clara's methods went far beyond this. If she could push Ethan this far, she was becoming desperate. And sure enough, the biggest surprise was yet to come. A few days later, I went to the bank to withdraw some cash for my utility bills. I noticed that the balance on one of my cards, a different savings card I used for daily expenses, not the one I had reported lost, was wrong. It was short by exactly $5,000. My head spun, and I nearly lost my balance. I immediately asked the teller to print out a transaction history. The statement clearly showed that $5,000 had been withdrawn 2 days earlier from an ATM near my house. It had been taken out in 5 separate transactions of $1,000 each. This wasn't theft between strangers. It was a deep betrayal. How could he? How could he do this? Clara. It had to be Clara who pushed him to this. For money, she had become completely ruthless, even convincing her own husband to steal his mother's emergency savings. I had always thought he was just weak-willed, easily influenced by his wife. I never imagined that under Clara's influence, he would abandon his basic morals, that he would cross a legal and ethical line. This was no longer just a family dispute. This was a crime. I clutched the bank statement, my knuckles white. I rushed home, grabbed the phone, and with trembling hands, dialed Ethan's number. The moment he answered, my pent-up fury erupted like a volcano. "Ethan, you tell me right now. That $5,000 from my account, was that you?" He tried to deny it at first, his voice stammering. "Mom, what money? I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you lie to me." I cut him off. "I have the bank statement right here. Ethan, I must have been blind to raise a monster like you. That was my emergency fund. You stole it?" My voice was hoarse with emotion. The line went silent. Then I heard Ethan's suppressed sobs. "Mom, I had no choice. I really had no choice." He started crying incoherently, telling me it was all Clara's fault. She said if we didn't put the deposit down on the house, we'd lose it. She said if I didn't get the money, she would divorce me and she would get rid of the baby. She said the money should have been mine anyway, that it would be mine sooner or later. I didn't mean to, Mom. Please don't be angry. Don't call the police, I'm begging you. She made me do it. What a classic, shameless excuse. To keep his scheming wife, to save an unborn child being used as a bargaining chip, he could steal from his own mother without a second thought. What kind of twisted logic was that? I had lived for over 60 years, and I thought I had seen it all. But what my own son said that day completely shattered my understanding of decency. Listening to his cowardly weeping and pathetic excuses, I felt a wave of nausea rise from my stomach. I felt sorry for his weakness, but I was furious at his lack of integrity. After the anger came a profound, bone-chilling cold that froze me to my core. I hung up the phone silently and sank onto the sofa, completely numb. The sunlight was beautiful, filling my living room with a golden glow, but I couldn't feel an ounce of its warmth. I just felt cold all over. I realized I couldn't back down anymore. This wasn't a simple family argument that could be resolved behind closed doors. This had crossed a line into illegality, into basic human decency. It threatened my most fundamental sense of security as an individual. I had to make a choice. Do I call the police and have him arrested, forcing him to face the legal consequences of his actions? That would certainly be satisfying in the short term and would punish both him and Clara directly. But what about the aftermath? Our relationship would be destroyed forever. I'd be humiliated in front of our family and neighbors. When he got out, he would only resent me more, and Clara would surely wash her hands of the whole affair, blaming everything on me and Ethan. Or do I just let it go, swallow my anger, write off the $5,000 as a loss, and cut them out of my life completely? But I couldn't stomach that. Why should they get away with it without any consequences? Why should I be the one who was robbed and then forced to suffer in silence? Or was there another way? A way to get my money back, teach them a lesson they would never forget, and make them pay for what they did, all while avoiding the worst possible outcome. Being soft-hearted is a sickness, and it needs to be cured. I used to believe that blood is thicker than water. Now I understand that for some people, the water in their veins is ice, mixed with poison. It can freeze you to death, and it can kill you. To call the police or not? This was no longer a simple choice. It was a question that would determine the course of the rest of my life. Every decision I made could lead me down a completely different path. I sat on the sofa for a long, long time, from mid-morning until the sun began to set. In the end, I decided not to call the police. It wasn't because my heart had softened or because I still held on to any foolish hopes for him. It was because it wasn't worth it. To punish him by dragging myself through the mud, to let everyone watch the ugly drama of a mother and son torn apart, the cost was too high. If he went to jail, I would be shamed. Neighbors would whisper. Relatives would gossip. And when he got out, what little affection was left would be replaced entirely by hatred. And Clara, the one who orchestrated it all, would walk away scotangent-free, perhaps even playing the victim. No matter how I looked at it, it was a losing proposition. Calling the police was the easiest way to vent my anger, but it wasn't the smartest solution. In the adult world, you have to think about the long run. I didn't want a scorched earth outcome where everyone lost, but the money I had to get it back. Every last cent. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about principles and boundaries. I called an old classmate who is a lawyer. I explained the situation without using any names, framing it as a dispute among relatives. I laid out the facts and asked for his legal advice. He was very professional. He confirmed that Ethan's actions constituted theft, a felony given the amount, and that if I reported it, a case would absolutely be opened. But he also understood my hesitation and suggested that if I wanted to avoid escalating the situation, I should try to resolve it privately first, making sure to keep all my evidence in case I needed it later. And I had evidence. I had the bank statement, which clearly showed the time, location, and amount of the withdrawals. I also had a recording of my phone call with Ethan. Although he didn't explicitly confess to stealing, his tearful pleas for me to not call the police and his attempts to blame Clara were more than enough to serve as supporting evidence. With a strategy in place, I felt more confident. I decided to go on the offensive. Instead of waiting for their next move, I would strike first and catch them completely off guard. I put the bank statement and a transcript of the phone call into a manila envelope. Taking a deep breath, I put on my coat and walked out the door. I didn't call ahead. I took a cab straight to the apartment complex where Ethan and Clara lived. Standing at their door, I rang the bell. A moment later, the door opened. It was Clara. When she saw me standing there, she was visibly startled. A flash of panic crossed her face before she quickly suppressed it and put on her usual fake smile. "Oh, Mom, what a surprise. Please, come in, come in. Ethan, your mom is here." I saw Ethan's figure dart across the living room. He was hiding behind Clara like a frightened rabbit, his head down, refusing to look at me. I didn't move. I stood at the threshold, my cold gaze sweeping over Clara's fake smile before landing on the cowering figure behind her. I got straight to the point, my voice quiet but filled with an icy authority. "Ethan, I have one question for you. The $5,000 from my bank account, are you going to find a way to return it to me right now, this instant? Or should I take what I have in this envelope and have a nice chat with your boss at work? Or maybe I should just go down to the local police station and file a report." As I spoke, I gently shook the manila envelope in my hand. It wasn't thick, but at that moment, it felt like it weighed a ton. I saw the color drain from Ethan's face. It turned a deathly white. His lips trembled, but no sound came out. And Clara, who had been trying to remain composed, saw her fake smile freeze on her face. Her eyes were filled with a mixture of suspicion and a dawning, undeniable panic. She stared at the envelope in my hand, as if trying to see through the paper. When the gloves are off, there's no need for politeness. With people like them, who bully the weak and only back down when faced with a greater force, you have to go straight for the throat. I had the proof. Let's see them try to act their way out of this one. Clara reacted faster than Ethan. She took a step forward, trying to smooth things over, her smile now more like a grimace. "Mom, what's all this? Let's just talk about this calmly. There must be some kind of misunderstanding. I'm talking to my son about the money." "You stay out of it," I interrupted her sharply, my eyes like daggers, cutting her off mid-sentence. My gaze locked back onto Ethan. My tone was firm, leaving no room for negotiation. I'm giving you 1 day. By this time tomorrow, that $5,000 needs to be back in my bank account. Every single cent. If it's not, you can figure out what happens next. I took a step closer, right up to the doorframe, staring into his evasive eyes. And don't think I won't do it. Even a cornered rabbit will bite back, let alone an old woman whose own son stole her emergency savings. Right now, I have nothing left to lose. Ethan was shaking from head to toe. He looked at my cold face, then instinctively glanced back at Clara, whose expression was a mixture of fury and fear. Finally, as if all the strength had been drained from him, he hung his head in defeat. His voice was as thin as a thread, but perfectly clear. Okay, Mom, I understand. I'll pay it back. Standing next to him, Clara's chest heaved with rage. Her face turned purple, her fists clenched so tight her nails were digging into her palms. But in the end, she didn't dare say another word. Some people are just bullies. You give them an inch, and they'll take a mile. It's only when you're tougher than they are, when you show your teeth and your boundaries, when you make them feel real pain, that they learn what respect is. The next afternoon, just after 3 o'clock, I received a text message from my bank. Your account ending in has received a deposit of $5,000 and 0 cents at 3:03 p.m. today. Looking at the numbers, I felt no joy, only a deep, bone-weary sadness. How did they come up with the money? Did Clara dip into her own secret savings? Did Ethan have to humiliate himself by borrowing from friends? I didn't know, and I didn't want to know. I was sure there had been a massive fight in their home, but that was no longer my problem. The outcome was good, the money was back. But my heart could never go back to the way it was. This whole ordeal was like a mirror, forcing me to see the cold, complicated truth of human nature and shattering any remaining illusions I had about my son. I couldn't continue living like this. I had to make better, more reliable plans for my future. That same evening, I called a real estate agent I knew. Lisa, I need you to list my old apartment. If the price is right, I want to sell it. Eleanor, are you thinking of upgrading to a bigger place? She asked, surprised. No, I shook my head, my voice calm and firm. I want to downsize. Something smaller, newer, with an elevator. I already had a clear plan. Selling my old apartment at the current market rate would probably get me a little over $150,000. Combined with my existing savings minus the $100,000, they almost tricked me out of it, was more than enough to buy a small 2-bedroom condo in a new building not far from my sister's place. The neighborhood was nice, transportation was convenient, and most importantly, being close to my sister meant we could look out for each other. We would have company. The rest of the money, I would put some in a high-yield savings account and invest some in low-risk mutual funds, ensuring I would have a worry-free retirement. With money in the bank, my heart was at peace. The money was back, but a part of my heart felt hollowed out, never to return. The experience was like a severe flu, painful and miserable, but it ultimately purged my system of the toxic fantasy of relying on my children in my old age. From now on, I was going to live for myself. The process of selling and buying went surprisingly smoothly. Maybe fate decided I had suffered enough in the first half of my life and wanted to give me a break. My old place sold in less than a month to an eager buyer, and I got the price I wanted. I quickly found a new condo I loved, a south-facing 2-bedroom. It wasn't large, but the layout was practical. It got plenty of sunlight, and there was a small garden just downstairs. Signing contracts, handling paperwork, closing, renovating, buying furniture, I was busy as a bee. It was exhausting, but my heart was filled with excitement for my new life. I didn't tell Ethan or Clara about any of this. It was as if we were living on parallel tracks. After that ugly confrontation at their apartment, we had no contact. It wasn't until the day I moved, when the moving company was packing up my life's memories, that they got wind of it from some relative and rushed over. Seeing the empty rooms, with only some old junk to be thrown out and boxes ready to go, Clara was completely stunned. The shock on her face was plain to see. Ethan just looked at me blankly, his mouth open as if he wanted to ask something but didn't know how. I looked at them, and to my surprise, I felt nothing but a mild amusement. I smiled, my tone as casual as if I were talking about the weather. That's right, I sold it. I'm getting older, and I can't handle the stairs anymore. I bought a smaller condo with an elevator near Carol's place. The neighborhood is nice, and it's more convenient. I paused, looking at their still shocked faces, and added, "From now on, let's just live our own separate lives. You wanted freedom, a life without an old woman getting in your way, and I'm giving it to you. I want a peaceful retirement, without worrying about your drama, and I'm getting it for myself." They probably thought that no matter how much trouble they caused, I, their mother, would eventually give in. They must have believed this apartment, along with all my savings, was already theirs for the taking. They never expected me to pull the rug out from under them, to just change the game entirely. I'm not playing with you anymore. I'm on my own team now, living my own beautiful life. How does that make you feel? Clara's face turned ugly. She looked like a cat whose tail had just been stepped on. She shrieked, "Mom, how could you do this? How could you sell the house without even talking to us?" This house was supposed to be Ethan's one day. I had to laugh at that. Even now, all she could think about was my property. The nerve of this woman was unbelievable. My smile vanished, and my eyes turned cold as I looked at her. "Clara, let me remind you of a few things," I said, each word deliberate. "First, this apartment was given to me by my employer before your father-in-law and I were married. It is legally my premarital property. After he passed away, I was the one who paid off the mortgage, all by myself. The deed has one name on it, from start to finish, Eleanor Johnson. Second, as the sole legal owner of this property, I can sell it, I can give it away, I can do whatever I want with it. Since when did a daughter-in-law get the right to question my decisions?" My voice wasn't loud, but it was filled with an authority that left no room for argument. Clara was speechless, her face turning a deep shade of red. I ignored her and turned to Ethan, who was still looking at the floor like a scolded child. A sharp pain shot through my heart, but my words were harsh. "Ethan, look at me." He flinched, then slowly raised his head, unable to meet my eyes. "I'm asking you," I said, "what did your father tell you on his deathbed? He held your hand and he made you promise. He told you to study hard, to be successful, and to take care of me. And what have you done? For a woman who only cares about money, you stole your own mother's emergency savings. You've forced me to sell the home I've lived in for decades. Tell me, have you done right by your dead father?" Ethan's face flushed, then went pale. His lips trembled, his eyes welled up with tears, and he finally bowed his head in shame, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "The law is written in black and white. It's my house, and I decide what to do with it. You want to inherit it? Fine, wait until I'm gone. And that's only if you still have the right and the nerve to claim it." Seeing that her dream of getting the house was completely shattered, Clara's eyes darted around, and she instantly switched tactics. She put on a tearful expression, even managing to squeeze out a few crocodile tears, and her voice choked as she played the sympathy card. "Mom, I know we were wrong. We're so sorry. Please don't be angry. Please don't leave. We promise we'll take good care of you from now on. We'll treat you like my own mother." She even tugged on Ethan's arm. "Ethan, hurry up and apologize to your mom. Beg her not to go." Watching her pathetic and laughable performance, I just felt sick. Crocodile tears? Save it. I cut her off coldly. It's too late. My voice was calm but held a finality that was as sharp as a blade. "Clara, a heart doesn't turn cold in a day. Trust, once broken, is like a shattered mirror. You can try to piece it back together, but it will never be the same. When you two were scheming for my money, you should have known this day would come." I ignored them and turned to the movers who were waiting for instructions. "Gentlemen, please go ahead and take these boxes down. Be careful." Ethan instinctively moved to help, muttering, "Mom, let me." I shot him a freezing look that stopped him in his tracks. "I don't need your help. I can do it myself." Those words weren't just about the boxes, they were a declaration of the new boundary between us. "Sorry, but my pharmacy for regret is permanently closed. You planted the seeds, now you can taste the bitter fruit." After moving into my new home, a new chapter of my life began. The condo wasn't large, but it was bright and had a wonderful view. The elevator made coming and going easy, and I no longer had to worry about my knees hurting on the stairs. The community was lovely, with plenty of trees and a small central garden. My sister Carol lived in the next building, and we saw each other almost every day. We would go grocery shopping together, try out new recipes, and in the evenings, we'd join the other ladies in the community square for some line dancing. On weekends, we would gather a few old friends and go for a hike in the nearby hills or just chat over tea at a cafe. I also signed up for a calligraphy class at a local senior center, which met twice a week. I had always loved to write and draw when I was younger, but life got in the way. Now, I could finally return to my passion. Practicing my calligraphy, reading books, my days were peaceful and fulfilling. That $100,000 I had originally planned to give them, I didn't just put it back in the bank. I used it to book myself a 15-day luxury tour of Europe, the romance of France, the stunning lakes and mountains of Switzerland, the ancient history of Italy, all the places I had only ever seen on television. I was going to see with my own eyes. The night before I left, I packed my bags, took a photo of my plane ticket and passport, and posted it on social media. The caption read, "The world is a big place, and I want to see it." For the first half of my life, I lived for others. Starting today, I'm going to live the second half for myself. Ciao, Europe. I made the post visible only to a few close friends, my sister, and of course to Ethan and Clara. I wanted them to see. I wanted them to know that the money they had schemed and fought so hard to get from me was now funding my dreams and my happiness. I wonder what they thought when they saw the photos of me smiling brightly under the Eiffel Tower or strolling through the streets of Rome. All I know is, it felt good. It felt like vindication. Over time, I heard bits and pieces about Ethan and Clara from my sister. Apparently, they never did buy that house in the fancy school district. I don't know if it was because they were short $100,000 or if the revelation of the theft created a rift between them that could never be repaired. Whatever the reason, their relationship was in shambles. They were constantly fighting. Clara had even moved back to her parents' house several times, threatening divorce. Their dream of climbing the social ladder through a school district was officially dead. Ethan came to see me a few times, always sneaking over when Clara wasn't around. He would stand awkwardly in the entryway of my new, clean home, his eyes red, repeating over and over, "Mom, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." He said Clara was sorry, too. I would just listen quietly, offering neither comfort nor condemnation. When he was finished, I would say calmly, "Ethan, you made your choices. This is the life you have to live. Regret is the most useless emotion in the world. When you were scheming against me, did you ever think it would come to this? You want my forgiveness now? I'm sorry, but my forgiveness is too expensive, and you can't afford it. Go live your life, and please, stop disturbing my peace." I didn't cut him off completely. He is my son, and that's a bond that can't be broken. On holidays, I would let him visit me, alone. We would sit for a little while and talk. When their son was born, I would let him bring the boy over. I would buy my grandson toys and give him a little money, fulfilling my duties as a grandmother. But that was it. As for Clara, she has not set foot in my home since the day I moved, and I have no desire to ever see her again. Some people, some wounds, can never be forgiven. A few more years have passed. I'm still healthy and full of energy. My retirement has been more vibrant and free than I ever could have imagined, filled with travel, classes, friends, and just enough grandmotherly duties to keep things interesting. Every time I see the healthy balance in my bank account, enough to ensure my comfort for the rest of my days, every time I enjoy the peace and quiet of my bright, modern home, I feel an immense sense of gratitude for that one phone call I made to the bank, for the fact that I didn't give in, that I held my ground. I didn't just save my money, I saved my dignity, my right to live my final years with my head held high, on my own terms. Ethan still brings my grandson to visit sometimes. The boy is adorable and reminds me of Ethan when he was little. I'll play with him and read him stories. But with Ethan, there is always an invisible wall between us. We are polite but distant, maintaining only the most basic facade of a mother and son. I know our relationship is broken beyond repair. Do I forgive them? No, I can't. But I have chosen to forgive myself, to let go of the past hurt and resentment, and to look forward, focusing on living my own life well. My money, my home, my life from now on. Eleanor Johnson is the only one in charge. When I think about them, still bogged down in their petty arguments, their financial struggles, their messy lives, while I'm enjoying the sights of Europe, learning in a classroom, and laughing with my friends, living the retirement I worked my whole life for, the feeling, well, how do I put it? It's liberating as hell. Thank you for watching. I hope today's story resonated with you. For those who haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the subscribe button so we can accompany you every day. Let's grow together. We'll see you in the next one.
Did you enjoy my story? What a journey it has been. I truly wonder, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have chosen silence to keep the peace, or would you have done what I did to reclaim your dignity? Let's meet in the comments below. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts. I'm reading every single one. Which city are you listening from tonight? If my story resonated with you, you can support me and help me bring more stories like this to the world by sending a super thanks. Your sweet support means the world to me and allows me to continue this journey with all of you. On the screen now, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend you watch next. There are so many more on my channel, each with its own lessons and triumphs. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss a new chapter. Thank you for being here with me. Until the next story, with love and respect.